When no one wakes you in the morning, when no one waits for you at night, when every choice is yours alone, what do you call it? Freedom? Or loneliness? It is never that simple. Because sometimes the thing you call loneliness is actually the first taste of freedom. And sometimes the thing you call freedom feels terrifying because no one is there to carry the blame. No one is there to tell you what to do. No one is there to rescue you from your own decisions. No one is there to hide behind. And that is why freedom feels heavy. To be free is to be responsible without excuses. It is to stand exposed and unguarded, without the cloak of pride, without the armor of approval, without the comfort of blaming the world. To be free is to claim your destiny as your own. It is to accept that perfection may never come, but wholeness is still possible. You were born alone. You will die alone. And somewhere in between, you will spend your life trying to convince yourself that you are not alone. Through love, through friendship, through success, through achievement, you create moments where the distance disappears. But deep down, there is a silence inside every human being that no one else can fully enter. And that silence scares people. That is why most people run from being alone. They fill every empty space with noise. They scroll, they talk, they chase attention, they chase relationships, they chase applause. They chase anything that keeps them from hearing the truth inside their own mind. But loneliness is not always a sign that something is wrong with your life. Sometimes loneliness is a sign that you are in desperate need of yourself. The worst loneliness is not having no one around you. The worst loneliness is not being comfortable with yourself. Because you can be surrounded by people and still feel invisible. You can sit in a room full of laughter and still feel like you are watching life through a window you cannot open. You can have messages, followers, conversations, and attention, and still feel a strange emptiness because none of it reaches the place inside you that is waiting to be known. For a long time, you may think loneliness is something you have to fix, something you have to outrun, something you have to cover up with people, noise, and distraction. But what if loneliness is not the enemy? What if loneliness is a doorway? What if the ache you feel is not proof that you are weak, but proof that your inner life is larger than the rooms you are standing in? There is a solitude at the core of being human. No matter how close you get to someone, no matter how deeply you love, no matter how deeply you are loved, there is always a space inside you that only you can enter. And if you are someone who feels deeply, someone who carries questions instead of easy answers, that space feels louder. You feel alone even in crowds. But that does not mean you are broken. It means you have stepped into something real. You are beginning to understand that most of what people call connection is only surface-level performance. Real connection is rare. Real connection happens when two people meet in depth, when someone recognizes the silence in you and does not try to fill it, when someone sees your inner world and does not ask you to shrink it. But until that kind of connection arrives, you must not abandon yourself. Because many people do not suffer because they are alone. They suffer because they betrayed themselves just to belong. They became smaller to be accepted. They became quieter to avoid rejection. They became agreeable to keep people close. They traded authenticity for approval. They flattened their depth to survive shallow expectations. And then they wondered why they still felt empty. Loneliness is painful, but abandoning yourself is worse. Because no love from the outside can replace the love you refuse to give yourself. You can search throughout the entire universe for someone more deserving of your love and affection than yourself. But that person will not be found. You yourself, as much as anybody in this world, deserve your own love, your own patience, your own respect, your own forgiveness. If you are not good at loving yourself, you will have a difficult time loving anyone else, because you will secretly resent the time and energy you give to others that you are not even giving to yourself. Your relationship with yourself sets the tone for every other relationship in your life. So the question is not only, why am I alone? The deeper question is, what part of myself have I been avoiding? Because silence does not create your pain. Silence reveals it. Isolation does not create your weakness. Isolation exposes it. The void does not destroy you. It strips away every distraction until you finally see what has been controlling you. And this is where most people panic. They think the void means their life is falling apart. But the void is not the end of your life. The void is the space between who you were and who you are becoming. It is the uncomfortable middle ground where your old identity is dying, but your new identity has not fully formed yet. You are no longer who you used to be, but you are not yet stable in who you are becoming. And that is why it feels confusing. You feel foggy. You feel uncertain. You feel detached from the old version of yourself, but not fully grounded in the new one. The habits that used to comfort you no longer work. The people who used to distract you no longer satisfy you. The old conversations feel empty. The old routines feel strange. The old identity feels too small. But the new version of you still feels unfamiliar. This is the void. And if you do not understand it, you will think something is wrong. You will think you are lost. You will think you made a mistake. You will think you should go back. But what is really happening is that your entire system is recalibrating. Your mind is reorganizing. Your nervous system is adjusting. Your subconscious is losing its attachment to the old programs that once kept you safe, small, and predictable. Imagine leaving the country where you were born. You know its streets. You know its language. You know its habits. You know how to survive there. But then one day, you realize you cannot grow there anymore. So you leave. You enter a new country. At first, everything feels strange. The language is different. The rhythm is different. The rules are different. You do not move with confidence yet. You do not feel powerful yet. You feel awkward, uncertain, unstable. But that does not mean you made the wrong decision. It means you are learning how to live in a new identity. That is what happens when you change. The old self was familiar. The new self is still becoming home. And in that transition, resistance will rise. The more important something is to your soul's growth, the stronger the resistance will be. The thing you most need to do will often be the thing you are most afraid of. The project you should begin. The habit you should build. The truth you should face. The discipline you should commit to. The life you should create. It will not always feel inspiring. Sometimes it will punch you in the face. Because resistance knows that if you cross that threshold, you will no longer be the same person. Resistance will make you procrastinate. It will make you doubt yourself. It will make you seek distraction. It will make you crave comfort. It will make you question your purpose. It will make you miss the old chains, because at least the old chains were familiar. But once you have tasted freedom, you must fight to keep from slipping back into chains. And the weight of those chains is always heavier than the burden of freedom. Weak people run back to what is familiar. Strong people learn how to stand in the unknown. Because a person's true power is not in wealth, not in titles, not in the obedience of others, not in being seen, not in being praised, not in being needed. A person's true power is in mastery over the self. Do not waste your life fighting what you cannot control. The rain will fall, the wind will blow, people will betray you, plans will collapse, loneliness will visit you, silence will test you. But none of these things have power over you unless you give them access to your mind. Your mind is the fortress. Guard it well, and nothing can truly break you. Adversity does not destroy a person. It reveals them. Pain reveals what you depend on. Loss reveals what you worship. Failure reveals what you believe about yourself. Loneliness reveals whether you have built a home inside your own soul. That is why suffering is not always bad. Pain can purify you. Failure can prepare you. Loss can sharpen you. Loneliness can return you to yourself. Everything that hurts you can strengthen you if you stop using pain as proof that you are powerless. You alone decide how you respond. Those who blame the world remain prisoners of fate. But those who take responsibility become unstoppable. So if you want to be mentally strong, you have to tell your brain what you want. You cannot leave your mind without direction. A mind without direction will return to old programming. A mind without discipline will obey old fear. A mind without purpose will search for comfort, approval, and distraction. So you must ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to become? What kind of life am I building? What do I want in my relationships? What do I want in my work? What do I want for my body, my mind, my spirit, my future? Write it down. Make it clear. Because if you do not tell your mind what you want, your old programming will tell you what to repeat. Every day, ask yourself, is my behavior getting me what I want? Not my intention, not my dream, not my fantasy. My behavior. Is the way I live today building the person I claim I want to become? Because transformation is not created by desire. Transformation is created by repeated alignment. Your subconscious is always listening. When you wake up and say, I do not want to get out of bed, your subconscious listens. When you say, I am tired, I am lost, I am not enough, I always fail, I cannot change, your subconscious listens. Anything you say after the words I am becomes a command. You are not only describing your present, you are programming your future. The conscious mind is creative. The subconscious mind is programmed. The conscious mind dreams. The subconscious mind repeats. The conscious mind says, I want a new life. But the subconscious mind says, this is what we know. This is what feels safe. This is what we have always done. And most people lose because they try to change their lives only with willpower, while their subconscious is still running the old identity. You cannot build a new life with an old self-image. You cannot become free while secretly believing you are powerless. You cannot become disciplined while your subconscious still identifies with chaos. You cannot become unstoppable while your inner script says you are broken. That is why the void matters. The void is where the old script becomes visible. The void is where you see the habits, beliefs, fears, and emotional addictions that have been quietly controlling your life. And when you see them, you can begin to rewrite them. You reprogram the subconscious through repetition. Not once. Not when you feel inspired. Not only when life is easy. Repetition, again and again. You repeat the identity until it becomes familiar. You repeat the discipline until it becomes natural. You repeat the truth until it becomes stronger than the old lie. If you want to become calm, practice calm. If you want to become focused, practice focus. If you want to become confident, practice confidence. If you want to become powerful, practice self-control when no one is watching. You do not become a new person by thinking about change. You become a new person by behaving like the new person until your subconscious no longer recognizes the old one as home. This is why solitude is powerful. Solitude is not empty. Solitude is a laboratory. It is the place where you study yourself. Most people never create the time or space to have a real conversation with themselves. They do not know their tendencies. They do not know their habits. They do not know their weaknesses. They do not know their triggers. They do not know what they are running from. They do not know what they actually want. They only know how to react. But in solitude, you begin to see. You see the part of you that craves validation. You see the part of you that performs for approval. You see the part of you that fears being forgotten. You see the part of you that wants to be rescued. You see the part of you that still needs applause before it believes the work matters. And once you see it, you can stop obeying it. Because growth does not require an audience. There are moments in life when you feel like you are walking alone on a fog-covered path. No one sees you. No one is cheering. No one tells you that you are doing the right thing. There is only you, your breath, and the road ahead. And in that silence, a different kind of strength begins to form. When no one says, "I believe in you," you must become the first person to say it to yourself. When no one pushes you, you must become your own force. When no one recognizes your effort, you must keep walking anyway. That is maturity. Immature people stop when there is no applause. Mature people continue because they know exactly why they are walking, even if no one else understands. True strength is not built in crowded rooms. It is forged in the hours no one sees. It is built in quiet mornings, in private decisions, in repeated promises kept to yourself. In the moments when no one would know if you quit, but you continue anyway. Discipline in solitude is like tending a small flame in the night. No one sees the flame. No one praises you for protecting it. But if you neglect it, the darkness will swallow you. If you keep it alive, slowly, it becomes the light that guides your entire life. This is like the roots of a tree. When people admire a strong tree, they look at the branches, the leaves, the height. But what keeps the tree standing is hidden beneath the ground. The roots grow in darkness, slowly, silently, without applause. And so do you. Your strength is not built on the surface. It is built in the private depths where you choose to continue when no one is watching. Confidence no longer comes from praise. It comes from evidence. Evidence that you stayed with yourself. Evidence that you kept your word. Evidence that you did not abandon your vision just because no one clapped for it. This is why disappearing can be powerful. If you truly want to change your life, you may not need to be seen more. You may need to disappear. Not forever. Not out of fear. Not because you hate people. But because the strongest transformations do not happen under the spotlight. They happen in silence. when no one is watching, when no one is validating, when no one is interrupting, when no one is pulling you back into the old role. The world tells you to post, to prove, to perform, to explain, to show everyone what you are doing. But sometimes the strongest version of you is created away from the noise. Sometimes you need to step back so you can finally hear your own voice again. Because the more you chase the crowd, the further you drift from yourself. The more you chase applause, the less you hear your purpose. The more you try to be understood by everyone, the less you understand yourself. Disappearing is not running away. It is reclaiming your focus. It is cutting off the endless chatter long enough to ask, who am I becoming? What am I really building? Am I living for their approval or for my own destiny? You do not owe the world constant updates. You do not have to announce every move. You do not have to explain your transformation to people who are committed to misunderstanding your silence. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. And one of the first disciplines you must master when you choose to rebuild yourself is the discipline of your words. Words are energy. Every time you speak about your dreams too early, your energy either builds momentum or leaks away. How many times have you told someone, I am going to start this. I am going to change. I am going to build something. I am going to become different. And for a moment, it felt good. Someone nodded. Someone praised you. Someone said, that is amazing. And your brain received the reward before you did the work. That is the danger. You felt accomplished without accomplishing anything. You traded real progress for the illusion of progress. That is why silence becomes your shield. Protect the flame. Do not expose every dream to the wind. Build first. Speak later. Let your results become louder than your words. Because when you are rebuilding yourself in the void, you cannot afford to leak energy into people who only want updates, entertainment, or access. You need your energy for the work. The work of reprogramming your mind. The work of mastering your emotions. The work of creating new habits. The work of becoming someone your future can depend on. And to do that, you must stop fighting to be seen. You must begin fighting for what is real. When people admire a strong tree, they look at the branches, the leaves, the height. But what keeps the tree standing is hidden beneath the ground. The roots grow in darkness, slowly, silently, without applause. And so do you. Your strength is not built on the surface. It is built in the private depths where you choose to continue when no one is watching. Confidence no longer comes from praise. It comes from evidence. Evidence that you stayed with yourself. Evidence that you kept your word. Evidence that you did not abandon your vision just because no one clapped for it. This is why disappearing can be powerful. If you truly want to change your life, you may not need to be seen more. You may need to disappear. Not forever. Not out of fear. Not because you hate people. But because the strongest transformations do not happen under the spotlight. They happen in silence. When no one is watching. When no one is validating. When no one is interrupting. When no one is pulling you back into the old role. The world tells you to post, to prove, to perform, to explain, to show everyone what you are doing. But sometimes the strongest version of you is created away from the noise. Sometimes you need to step back so you can finally hear your own voice again. Because the more you chase the crowd, the further you drift from yourself. The more you chase applause, the less you hear your purpose. The more you try to be understood by everyone, the less you understand yourself. Disappearing is not running away. It is reclaiming your focus. It is cutting off the endless chatter long enough to ask, who am I becoming? What am I really building? Am I living for their approval or for my own destiny? You do not owe the world constant updates. You do not have to announce every move. You do not have to explain your transformation to people who are committed to misunderstanding your silence. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. And one of the first disciplines you must master when you choose to rebuild yourself is the discipline of your words. Words are energy. Every time you speak about your dreams too early, your energy either builds momentum or leaks away. How many times have you told someone, I am going to start this. I am going to change. I am going to build something. I am going to become different. And for a moment, it felt good. Someone nodded. Someone praised you. Someone said, that is amazing. And your brain received the reward before you did the work. That is the danger. You felt accomplished without accomplishing anything. You traded real progress for the illusion of progress. That is why silence becomes your shield. Protect the flame. Do not expose every dream to the wind. Build first. Speak later. Let your results become louder than your words. Because when you are rebuilding yourself in the void, you cannot afford to leak energy into people who only want updates, entertainment, or access. You need your energy for the work of reprogramming your mind, the work of mastering your emotions, the work of creating new habits, the work of becoming someone your future can depend on. And to do that, you must stop fighting to be seen. You must begin fighting for what is real. There is a part of you that wants to be praised, validated, approved, and recognized. That part is not evil. It is just afraid. It is the part of you that learned that being accepted meant being safe. So when someone ignores you, you feel small. When someone criticizes you, you feel attacked. When someone does not understand you, you feel invisible. But if you keep living for the eyes of others, you will never belong to yourself. The ego wants to be defended. The self wants to be true. The ego wants applause. The self wants alignment. The ego asks, how do I look? The self asks, what is real? And the moment you stop fighting to protect your image, you begin to protect your destiny. That is freedom, not the freedom to do anything. The freedom to stop being controlled by the need to be seen. The freedom to walk alone without feeling worthless. The freedom to build in silence without needing permission. The freedom to choose yourself without waiting for someone else to choose you first. Because being alone is not always punishment. Sometimes being alone is power. Silence is not empty. It is full of answers. Loneliness is needing others to feel whole. Solitude is choosing yourself because you already are. You are not lonely. You are free from noise, free from performance, free from pretending, free from needing the wrong people to confirm the right path. And when you understand this, the void changes. It no longer feels like abandonment. It becomes training. It becomes a place where your old identity loses control and your new self begins to breathe. In the void, you stop asking, why is no one here? And you begin asking, what am I being forced to become? You stop asking, who left me? And you begin asking, what part of myself is finally returning? You stop asking, why am I lonely? And you begin asking, how can I use this silence to rebuild my mind? Because loneliness is not here to destroy you. It is here to remove every false voice until the only voice left is your own. And once you hear that voice, you must train it. You must discipline it. You must make it stronger than fear, stronger than memory, stronger than the need for approval, stronger than the old programs that keep pulling you backward. Every morning, remind yourself, I am not here to repeat the past. I am not here to live from old wounds. I am not here to beg for validation. I am not here to become smaller so other people can feel comfortable. I am here to build a mind that cannot be broken. I am here to build a life that is rooted in purpose. I am here to turn silence into power. I am here to become someone I can trust. And every night, ask yourself, did I honor the person I am becoming? Did I protect my focus? Did I keep my word? Did I move closer to my future, or did I return to my old chains? This is how you reprogram the void. Not with fantasy, not with empty motivation, not with waiting, but with repeated identity, repeated discipline, repeated silence, repeated self-respect, repeated action. Until one day, the solitude that once felt like punishment begins to feel like peace. The silence that once felt empty begins to feel sacred. The loneliness that once felt like a wound begins to feel like space. Space to think, space to heal, space to build, space to become. And you realize something powerful. You were never alone because you were unlovable. You were alone because you had not yet been met deeply enough. And before the world could meet you deeply, you had to meet yourself. You had to stand before the mirror without turning away. You had to see the fear, the pain, the hunger for approval, the old identity, the resistance, the wounds, the silence. And instead of running, you stayed. That is power. Not loud power, not arrogant power, not the power that needs witnesses. Real power, the power of a person who can sit with themselves and not collapse. The power of a person who can walk alone and not lose direction. The power of a person who can feel pain and still choose purpose. The power of a person who can enter the void and come out with a new mind. So do not fear this season. Do not fear the silence. Do not fear being unseen. Do not fear the empty space between who you were and who you are becoming. This is where the work happens. This is where the old self dies. This is where the new self is installed. This is where loneliness becomes discipline. This is where discipline becomes identity. This is where identity becomes destiny. And one day, you will look back at the season when you thought you were abandoned, and you will realize you were actually being returned to yourself. You were not being punished. You were being prepared. You were not being forgotten. You were being forged. You were not losing your life. You were losing the version of yourself that could no longer carry your future. And when you finally make peace with loneliness, you stop needing the world to rescue you from yourself. You stop begging for noise. You stop chasing shallow connection. You stop fearing silence. Because now you know, the void is not empty. The void is where power is born. And once you learn how to stand there, once you learn how to breathe there, once you learn how to build there, you will never be the same again. You may not feel completely healed from loneliness, but you can become at peace with it. And once you are at peace with it, you are never truly alone again. This is why you are not growing. You say you want more, but your schedule says otherwise. You say you want a new life, but your habits are still protecting the old one. You say you are ready to change, but every single day, you keep choosing the same comfort, the same distractions, the same excuses, the same familiar version of yourself. You are not stuck because opportunity is missing. You are stuck because a part of you is still loyal to the person you used to be. The scroll, the delay, the "I'll start Monday," the empty promises you make to yourself when nobody is watching. That is not rest. That is retreat. And the longer you keep retreating, the more your future self becomes a stranger. Growth does not feel like growth while it is happening. Growth feels like showing up when you are tired. Growth feels like choosing the harder path when nobody claps for you. Growth feels like walking away from the version of yourself that once helped you survive, but now keeps you small. Because what saves you at one stage of life can begin to suffocate you at another. There comes a moment when the identity you built to protect yourself becomes the prison that keeps you from becoming more. The old you had a purpose. Maybe that version of you helped you survive pain. Maybe it helped you avoid rejection. Maybe it helped you stay safe when life felt unstable. But survival is not the same as living. And there comes a point where the self you created in response to life begins to stand between you and life itself. You keep saying, "This is just who I am." But what if that sentence is not truth? What if it is a cage? What if the identity you keep defending is only an old story your nervous system learned because it wanted to keep you safe? Life is not interested in keeping you the same. Life is interested in movement, in expansion, in the breaking open of forms that have become too small. And that is why the old version of you feels tight now. That is why certain habits no longer feel right. That is why things that used to excite you feel empty. That is why certain people, places, routines, and cycles no longer fit your spirit. You are not falling apart. The old you is expiring. The version of you that tolerated less is expiring. The version of you that accepted breadcrumbs is expiring. The version of you that settled for comfort instead of purpose is expiring. Your spirit has outgrown who you used to be. And growth often feels like irritation. It feels like discomfort. It feels like confusion. It feels like, why can't I go back to the things that used to make me feel safe? Because you are too big for that life now. You are being pushed into expansion, but expansion always requires loss. There comes a point in every transformation where the old version of you starts to fall away. And it is not always gentle. It can feel uncomfortable. It can feel confusing. It can feel like grief. Because you are mourning a person you once were while becoming someone you have never been. The things you used to enjoy stop feeling the same. The people you once connected with start to drift. The routines that once gave you comfort now feel like chains. And even though a part of you knows it is right, another part of you still wants to hold on. That is because every rebirth requires surrender. You cannot step into your next chapter while still clutching the pages of the last one. You cannot become the person you are praying to become while emotionally married to the person you used to be. At some point, you must divorce your past version. Not hate it, not shame it, not pretend it never existed, but release it. Thank it for protecting you. Then walk away. Because if you do not let the old self die, something new in you will remain unborn. And yes, It will feel strange. You may feel sad for no clear reason. You may feel nostalgic for a life you know was not even good for you. You may feel pulled back into old patterns, old emotions, old ways of coping. That does not mean you are failing. It means the old identity is losing its grip. You are purging the patterns, the behaviors, and the limitations that used to define you. You are no longer available for the same life. And the more you are willing to let go, the farther you are going to go. The more weight you drop, the lighter you become. The more space you create, the more room life has to bring something new. But if you keep dragging the same old beliefs, the same old fears, the same old emotional stories into every new season, nothing truly new can enter. You cannot receive a new identity with hands full of the old one. So let go. Let go of the story that you are not ready. Let go of the story that you are too damaged. Let go of the story that your past has the final word. Let go of the personality that was built out of fear. Let go of the emotional addiction to who you have always been. Because your brain will try to stop you. Your brain does not care about your success. Your brain cares about your survival. And every time you try to achieve something you have never achieved before, you must do something you have never done before. That means you must leave the comfort zone. And to the brain, anything outside the comfort zone can feel like a threat. That is why you hesitate. That is why you feel anxious when you try to change. That is why you start doubting yourself right before progress begins. That is why the voice in your mind says, "This is not you. You failed last time. You are not that kind of person. Start tomorrow." That voice is not wisdom. That voice is familiarity. Every time you try to turn your life around, your brain fights to pull you back to the old set point, the old habits, the old mood, the old identity, the old emotional home. And this is why change feels worse before it feels better. People think they are afraid of success. Most of the time, they are not. They are afraid of change. Because change means something in your life has to become unstable before it becomes stronger. If you leave an old relationship, you may feel lonely before you feel free. If you build a new career, you may feel uncertain before you feel powerful. If you break an old habit, you may feel uncomfortable before you feel disciplined. This is the price of becoming new. Your life may feel worse first, not because you are going backward, but because the old structure is collapsing. And the mind hates collapse. The mind wants to be free of pain, free of uncertainty, free of change. But change is law. No amount of pretending will alter that reality. So stop asking for growth without discomfort. Stop asking for transformation without loss. Stop asking for a new life while demanding that nothing old be disturbed. The new you is not built in comfort. The new you is built in the unknown. But here is the deeper truth. You do not have a motivation problem. You do not have a discipline problem. You do not have a productivity problem. At the root, you have a self-image problem. You cannot outperform your self-image. Your self-image sets the boundaries of your life, your income, your relationships, your body, your confidence, your discipline, your ability to speak, your ability to lead, your ability to receive more. Before you can do something new, you must become someone new. Because inside your mind, there is an image of who you believe you are. You see one version of yourself in the mirror, but there is another image inside. And that inner image controls how you move through life. If your inner image is weak, you will shrink. If your inner image says you are unworthy, you will reject opportunities that require worthiness. If your inner image says you always fail, you will sabotage success when it gets too close. If your inner image says you are not confident, you will avoid eye contact, avoid hard conversations, avoid the rooms where your next level exists. But when your self-image changes, your life begins to change. Your posture changes, your voice changes, your standards change, your choices change. You stop moving like someone waiting for permission. You start moving like someone who belongs. Because identity is not just in your thoughts. Identity lives in your nervous system. You can only express the version of yourself that your body feels safe to express. This is why transformation is not just mental. You can say, "I am confident." But if your nervous system still feels unsafe being seen, you will hide. You can say, "I deserve more." But if your body still believes receiving more is dangerous, you will push it away. You can say, "I am different now." But if your inner world still feels attached to survival, you will keep repeating the survival self. Most people do not realize that healing requires dropping the identity of the survival self. And that is not always easy. Because the survival self is familiar. It knows how to please people. It knows how to avoid risk. It knows how to stay small enough to avoid judgment. It knows how to hide behind excuses. It knows how to keep you safe. But safe is not always free. Sometimes safe is just another word for trapped. To become someone new, you must deconstruct the entire infrastructure of how you see yourself. That is why transformation can feel like an identity crisis. You feel better and worse at the same time. You feel excited and afraid at the same time. You feel like you are growing, but also like you are losing yourself. That is not failure. That is rebuilding. Your brain is a record of the past. Your body is a record of familiar emotions. If you have lived for years in guilt, sadness, anger, fear, shame, resentment, or self-doubt, your body begins to treat those emotions like home. And even when they hurt you, they feel familiar. So when you try to become peaceful, your body resists. When you try to become disciplined, your body resists. When you try to become confident, your body resists. Not because the new identity is wrong, but because the old identity has been rehearsed for too long. Same thoughts lead to same choices. Same choices lead to same behaviors. Same behaviors create same experiences. Same experiences produce same emotions. And those same emotions influence the same thoughts again. That is the loop. That is how a personality becomes a prison. That is how yesterday becomes tomorrow. That is how people live the same year 10 times and call it life. So if you want a new personal reality, you must change the personality that created the current one. You must become conscious of the unconscious pattern. You must catch the thought before it becomes a choice. Catch the excuse before it becomes behavior. Catch the emotion before it becomes identity. When you say, "I am tired," when you say, "I am not good enough," when you say, "It is someone else's fault," when you say, "I will never change," stop. That is the old self trying to breathe through you. That is old software running in the background. Do not obey it. Observe it. Interrupt it. Replace it. Stop telling the story of your past. Start telling the story of your future. Because if you're not defined by a vision of the future, you will be left with memories of the past. Most people wake up and immediately remember their problems. And those problems are memories. They are tied to people, places, failures, regrets, and old emotions. So the moment they wake up, their brain is already in the past. Their body is already in the past. Their energy is already in the past. And if your thoughts have anything to do with your destiny, then thinking from the past creates more of the past. You do not need to keep living as the person who was hurt. You do not need to keep living as the person who failed. You do not need to keep living as the person who was rejected. You do not need to keep living as the person who was not chosen. That was an experience. It does not have to become your identity. A belief is just a thought repeated long enough and charged with emotion. If you repeat, "I am not worthy," your mind will look for proof. If you repeat, "I always fail," your mind will look for proof. If you repeat, "Nothing works for me," your mind will look for proof. Your beliefs become the lens through which you see reality. Same world, different lens, different life. So stop asking only, "Is this belief true?" Ask, "Does this belief serve the life I am building? Does this belief move me toward the person I want to become? Or does it keep me loyal to my past?" Because who you believe you are determines what your brain allows you to dream. Your self-concept does not just influence your goals. It determines what future your mind can even imagine. And what you cannot imagine, you cannot create. Your identity predicts your habits better than your goals do. Your brain works to keep you consistent with who you think you are. So when your goal is bigger than your identity, you will sabotage it. You will delay. You will avoid. You will quit. Not because you are lazy, but because your identity has not caught up to your desire. You do not fall back into old habits because you are weak. You fall back because you are still operating as the same version of yourself. You are trying to build a new life with an old self-concept. That will never last. No amount of motivation can overpower identity forever. No amount of discipline can fight the current forever. Eventually, your identity pulls you back to what feels normal. So the answer is not to try harder. The answer is to become someone new. You are not who you think you are. Your personality, your habits, your limits, none of it is fixed. They are stories your brain keeps retelling because no one ever interrupted the loop. But you can interrupt it. You can rewire your identity. Not in theory, in structure. Your brain is neuroplastic. It reshapes itself when you think new thoughts, take new actions, and imagine a new future. You are not stuck. You are rehearsing the old you on autopilot. Every belief you have about yourself is a well-worn pathway. I am shy. I am bad with money. I cannot focus. I always quit. I am not disciplined. Those are not permanent truths. They are practiced patterns. And what has been practiced can be retrained. First, define the old identity clearly. What thoughts run through your mind every day? What negative traits have you assigned to yourself? What do you keep saying about yourself when nobody hears you? I am not confident. I am bad with money. I do not deserve love. I cannot lead. I never finish. Write it down. Look at it. Make the old identity visible. You cannot rewrite what you refuse to see. Then define the new self-image with surgical clarity. Not vague, not, "I want to be better." Specific. How does the new you walk? How does the new you talk? How does the new you enter a room? How does the new you handle money? How does the new you respond under pressure? How does the new you keep promises? How does the new you speak when the conversation is difficult? Your mind needs a destination. A GPS cannot guide you if it does not know where you are going. Then act as if. Every time life gives you an opportunity to return to the old self, choose the new one. When you want to avoid the conversation, speak. When you want to ignore the bank account, look. When you want to skip the workout, show up. When you want to hide, stand tall. When you want to react emotionally, remain calm, not because it feels natural, but because you are training it to become natural. Then collect evidence. Every time you do something that violates the old self-image, write it down. Every time you prove the old story wrong, write it down. Every time you show up, follow through. Speak clearly, stay calm, choose discipline, keep a promise. Write it down. Your mind needs proof. You cannot build a new self-image out of fantasy. You build it out of evidence. Small evidence, tiny evidence, daily evidence. And over time, your brain stops arguing. Your subconscious begins to accept the new identity. Your new self-image becomes believable. Then it becomes familiar. Then it becomes automatic. One of the most life-changing things you can understand about your brain is this. Your brain is always listening to what you repeatedly do. If you repeatedly hesitate, your brain wires hesitation. If you repeatedly break promises to yourself, your brain wires self-doubt. But if you repeatedly show up, your brain wires discipline. If you repeatedly follow through, your brain wires confidence. If you repeatedly speak with conviction, your brain wires courage. You do not become who you dream about. You become who you practice being. Repetition rewires identity. The brain does not care what you claim. It watches what you repeat. Habits become identity because neurons that fire together wire together. Daily behavior matters more than motivation. Consistency programs self-concept. You are not who you declare. You are who you repeat. Every repeated action is a vote for the person you are becoming. Go to the gym enough, and you become someone who trains. Read enough, and you become someone who studies. Keep showing up, and you become someone who finishes. Speak courageously enough, and you become someone who no longer hides. So do not wait to feel like the new person. Act like the new person until the feeling catches up. And do not rely on willpower. Willpower runs out. Build a system. Design your environment so discipline becomes easier than weakness. Decide the night before. Put the phone away. Put the gym bag by the door. Make the hard thing the first thing. Remove the option to negotiate with yourself. Attach new habits to routine that already exist. Track your streaks. Protect your mornings. Let boredom win. Forgive bad days quickly. One missed workout does not erase 30. One bad day does not collapse the system. Disciplined people do not spiral from one slip. They reset fast. Because identity is not built by perfection. It is built by returning. Look at your room. Look at your clothes. Look at your food. Look at your routine. Look at your mornings. Look at the content you consume. Everything around you tells a story. Your space mirrors your standards. Your habits mirror what you tolerate. Your environment quietly tells your nervous system who you are. So start editing. If it does not reflect the person you are becoming, remove it. If it feeds the old identity, cut it. If it keeps you weak, distance yourself. If it strengthens the new self, repeat it. And before you sleep, rehearse the new identity. Close your eyes and see the version of yourself who has already become what you are building. Notice how that person stands, how they breathe, how they think, how they speak, how they handle pressure, how they walk into a room. Step into that version. Feel the confidence. Hear the inner voice say, "This is who I am now." Because your imagination can work against you, or it can work for you. If you can imagine failure and create anxiety in your body, you can imagine your future and create alignment in your body. Rehearse the new self before sleep. Wake up and prove it through action, again and again. Until one day, the old you no longer feels like home. God, life, destiny, whatever word you use, is asking you to stop being attached to who you have always been. Stop living in the past. Stop rehearsing old decisions. Stop punishing yourself for who you were when you did not know what you know now. That person was part of your story, but that person is not your final form. It is time to move forward. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. It is time to become the person who is willing to change. The person who is ready to drop the bad habits. The person who chooses discipline. The person who remains consistent. The person who no longer looks back for permission. Never look desperate. Never react emotionally. Remain calm even when life gets hard. Accept that there will be seasons where you must suffer, stretch, and grow in silence. Every great transformation requires that. Every stronger version of you will demand a weaker version be left behind. So divorce your past version. Do not keep sleeping beside old fears. Do not keep defending old excuses. Do not keep carrying the identity that was only meant to get you through one chapter. You are allowed to become new. You are allowed to outgrow your story. You are allowed to stop being loyal to the person pain created. The old you was survival. The new you is purpose. And from this moment forward, your job is simple. Think like the new you. Move like the new you. Choose like the new you. Repeat it until your brain believes it. Repeat it until your body feels safe in it. Repeat it until success no longer feels like a goal. Repeat it until it becomes your nature. This is not just self-improvement. This is self-directed evolution. The past built you, but it does not own you. Now stand up. Walk away from the old image and become who you were always meant to be.
The man who reacts is led by the world. The man who remains unmoved leads the world. That is the secret. That is the path. You must become the one who sees the attack, but does not let it shape his self-image. You must become the one who witnesses loss, yet does not internalize defeat. You must become the one who hears the noise, but remains tuned only to the frequency of truth. Others may call this weakness, because they do not understand it. They believe strength is in the fist, in the raised voice, in the pointed finger. But true strength is in restraint. True power is quiet.
Calm mind is powerful in a world that feeds on chaos, because when you learn how to steady yourself, storms don't get to control you anymore. Life will test you. People will try you. Trust. Situations will hit you unexpectedly. But the real danger has never been the storm itself. It's letting the storm take over your mind. Most people don't fall apart because life is hard. They fall apart because their emotions start driving the moment. Anger says react. Fear says panic. Pride says prove something. Anxiety says imagine everything going wrong, and suddenly you're exhausted, not because of what happened, but because of how much you reacted to it. There is a reason stillness has always been connected to wisdom. Stillness isn't passive, it's controlled strength. A calm mind doesn't mean you don't feel, it means you don't let feelings make decisions for you. When your mind is calm, you can hear clearly. You can see truth without distortion. You can respond instead of explode. And mastering that doesn't require perfection. It requires practice. When something triggers you, pause your body before you address the situation. Breathe, slow down, create space, then name what you're feeling honestly without judging yourself. Awareness alone takes half the power away. Next, separate what's actually happening from the story your mind is telling you. Most storms grow louder because of interpretation, not reality. And finally, choose restraint over reaction. Not everything needs a response. Not every moment needs your energy. Silence can be wisdom. That's how peace is built. A calm mind can carry grief without collapsing. A calm mind can handle pressure without becoming bitter. A calm mind can sit in uncertainty without rushing into regret, because peace isn't the absence of storms. It's knowing where you're anchored when they come. And when you learn to master your emotions, you stop being controlled by circumstances and start moving with intention. That's real strength. That's how you endure. That's how you overcome.
You see, Stoics believed that you can't control the world, only how you respond to it. Marcus Aurelius literally ran an empire while he was fighting plagues and wars and all kinds of personal losses. Yet his journals, they're full of reminders like you have power over your mind, not outside events. Well, that's kind of humbling. Because when you think about it, most of our stress comes from trying to control stuff that we never could control. What people think, what happens next, whether things go our way. But the Stoics, they kind of flipped it a little bit. They ask, okay, what's actually in my control right now? Usually, it's just your attitude, your choices, your reactions. So the next time something goes wrong, like a traffic jam, a bad day, whatever, try thinking like a Stoic. Ask yourself, is this in my control? If it's not, let it go.
Your triggers are not the problem. How you react to them is the problem. Now there's a split second between what happens to you and how you respond. And mastering that space is the key to emotional regulation and growing your emotional intelligence. The space between a stimulus and a response is our power to choose. Now really think about it. If something triggers you, maybe your partner makes a dismissive comment, or your friend forgets something that's important to you, or someone shuts down in an argument. Instantly, your body reacts. Your heart rate spikes, your mind races, your emotions flood in. This is where most people lose control. They react on autopilot, lashing out, shutting down, or spiraling into resentment. But that automatic reaction is not about the present moment. It's about your past. Your nervous system is responding to every moment in your life where you felt dismissed, forgotten, unheard. This is why self-awareness is everything when creating emotional intelligence. It's a way to pull you from the past and into the present moment, because between your trigger and your reaction, there is a space. Do you let your past dictate your response, or do you pause, recognize what's happening, and choose something different? This is emotional regulation. Not that you have triggers, not suppressing emotions, but learning how to navigate the space in between.
True calm begins when you stop being the passenger in your own mind and become the pilot. When your thoughts feel like a storm you can't escape, fighting against the chaos often makes it louder. The real shift happens not through force, but through a deliberate release. You quiet the internal noise by first stepping back from it. Slow everything down. Let the mental turbulence settle on its own. The key is in who you're speaking to inside yourself. Address the deeper, automatic part of your mind, the one that manages your heartbeat, your breathing, your instincts. Instruct it with complete certainty. Tell it firmly to restore balance, to operate from a place of quiet and seamless order. When you issue that directive with genuine belief, your entire system aligns. Your physical state, your emotional rhythm, they begin to normalize and find their natural, healthy flow. It's not a request, it's you reclaiming the controls. So, the next time you feel overwhelmed, don't get lost in the whirlwind. Pause. From a place of quiet authority, give the instruction for peace. Then, release the need to micromanage. Allow your own wisdom to carry out the command.
The fastest way to calm your mind is super simple. So let me know whether you have a racing mind very often, whether your mind is kind of going round like a washing machine on spin cycle. Now, if you want to calm it down, the fastest way to calm your mind is through your breath. You don't need anything else. Just start, even right now, to become aware that you're breathing. So just try it, and maybe if you're busy now and you can't do it now, just save this so that you can come back to it later, and just start to become conscious of your breath. So it's called conscious breathing. Now all that means is, and I'm going to do it now with you, I'm going to pay attention to the fact that I'm breathing. I'm not even going to try and do any fancy breathing technique. I'm just going to be aware that I'm breathing in, that I'm breathing out. Now, I'm not asking you to analyze your breath, to have any thinking process about your breath. In fact, I want you to do the opposite. Simply become aware that you're breathing. Do it now. Just take another couple of breaths with me. Just feel the air going in through your nose. Feel your lungs and your tummy and your chest expanding. And then as you breathe out, follow the breath out with your awareness. Experience the breath. So again, I'm not asking you to think about your breathing. I'm asking you not to think. So just become aware of your breathing. So just notice that your body is breathing in and out.
The other tip I give people is to really cultivate silence. And the main silence they need to cultivate is inner silence. So they need to have some distance from their inner chatter. You know, most people have thoughts, but the problem in meditation is they bring awareness to the thought rather than letting the thought just pass by like a cloud in the sky.
If thinking is the most important thing you do, because of the consequences of thinking determine the entire quality of your life, then the quality of your thinking determines the quality of your life. And so the more time that you spend thinking and thinking well and thinking clearly, the more successful you are. Over the years, I've worked with some very powerful people, billionaires and multi-billionaires, people who are on the Forbes 400 list. And I've had a chance to be with them during crises. And I noticed that they all had one quality in common. They all went calm. When your mind is calm, your entire cerebellum, the thinking and deciding brain, functions at its highest level.
The people that are successful, they can self-soothe, they can stay emotionally calm in the midst of a storm. When everybody else is panicking, they're only looking at solutions. And that's the other thing about the no bullshit, what would it take game. The whole point is to switch you out of problem mode into solution mode. Most people can only see, these are the 152 ways that this could go wrong. And we started doing that to say, no matter how outrageous, there is a way to pull this off.
Calm. Just be calm. Sometimes we tend to overhype situations. Our imagination gets in our own way. And for me, I was able to detach myself from it, to allow the work that I've put in that practice to manifest itself during the game. So there's no need to panic. I've had games that I've won, games that I've lost at the buzzer. You show up the next morning and you get to practice again anyway.
Whatever you think about on a continuing basis, you draw into your life and you make into your reality because of this superconscious capability. No matter how big your goals are, no matter how far away they are, if you can hold them in your mind on a continuing basis, you can make them your reality. Well, how do you activate the superconscious mind? Here is the most powerful of all. It is called solitude. Now, how do you use solitude? We call this go into the silence. Go and sit down quietly by yourself for 30 to 60 minutes. That any problem that you have, any difficulty, any challenge, any goal that you want to accomplish, if you'll go into the silence and sit quietly and then listen to the still small voice within, you will find that at a certain point, probably at about 25 to 30 minutes, your mind will go completely clear, and wham, exactly the answer you need will come at exactly the right time. And if you will get up and go and carry out that answer, it will turn out to be exactly perfect.
Being calm in the midst of chaos reveals confidence. Calmness is actually a choice that we have to decide to step into by learning how to manage our inner man. What I mean by that is every single one of us have an internal perspective inside of us. So when life happens to us, the first thing that takes place is we have the ability to react or respond. The way our heart is inside, the way that we perceive inside, it reveals if we're calm or if it reveals if we're chaotic. The more chaotic we are internally, the more anxious we will be. And your inner atmosphere right here will always determine your outer environment. So make a decision to be calm in the midst of chaos, because calmness reveals confidence.
Freedom is not the absence of conflict. It is the ability to walk through conflict without being dragged into its story. Peace is not the absence of noise. It is the refusal to let noise dictate your direction. You must live from the inside out, not the outside in. The moment you let the outer world decide who you are no longer living. You are reacting. You are no longer choosing, you are chasing. But you were not born to chase. You were born to create. And creation does not emerge from panic. It flows from presence, from poise, from the unbothered awareness that knows all things are unfolding for your good, whether the world sees it yet or not. So you stop proving, you stop pleading, you stop engaging in battles that cost you your peace. You do not need to win every argument. You do not need to correct every misconception. You do not need to teach every lesson. Sometimes your silence is your elevation. Your peace is your response. Let others wonder why you are so calm. Let them question your quiet. Let them project, misread, and mislabel. That is their lesson, not yours. You do not shrink to fit their narrative. You do not dim to make them comfortable. You shine quietly, steadily, endlessly. You rise. You rise not with effort, but with ease. Not with noise, but with knowing. Not with force, but with faith. Because you have seen the truth, all things respond to your inner conviction. So you do not panic when things look wrong. You do not grasp when things feel delayed. You do not fight the shadows. You turn on the light. You keep walking, you keep believing, you keep assuming the best even when you are shown the worst. You do not match energy, you raise it. You do not echo the world, you speak from the heavens. You do not get drawn into the narrative, you write a new one. When the door closes, you do not bang on it. You turn, you smile, and you walk toward the better one already forming. When the opportunity slips away, you do not chase. You remain still, knowing that what is meant for you does not run, it aligns. You understand that delay is not denial, it is redirection. And redirection is often the universe's protection in disguise. So you no longer fall apart when plans shift. You no longer spiral when people leave. You no longer question your worth when the outcome differs from your desire. You trust. You trust the timing. You trust the process. You trust yourself because you have realized, finally, that the only true loss is the loss of your center. And you will no longer surrender that, not for anyone, not for anything. The world will keep spinning, people will keep talking, storms will rise and pass. But you are the eye of the storm. You are the calm that remains. You are the stillness that creates worlds.
Your brain can be addicted to suffering. Your brain is designed to strengthen whatever patterns that you repeat most, emotional ones included. Neuroscientists call this experience-dependent plasticity. The more often a neural pathway is activated, the easier it is to activate again. This means that if stress, worry, or self-criticism become familiar, they start to become your default. And the mind can confuse survival patterns for personality. So familiar pain can feel safer than unfamiliar calm. And this is not because you want to suffer, but it's because that's how your nervous system knows how to operate. Over time, what began as a response to difficult circumstances can start to feel like it's who you are. But it's not your identity. It's a pattern that your brain learned. The hopeful part is that the same mechanism that wired it can also unwind it. New emotional experiences repeated gently and consistently. In psychology and neuroscience, a new emotional experience is one that contradicts your brain's current default. So here are some examples of new emotional experiences. You speak up and nothing bad happens. You rest and the world doesn't fall apart. You set a boundary and you survive the discomfort. You don't need to fight your mind. You need to train it towards something it hasn't practiced yet. This is how suffering loosens its grip, not through force, but through repetition of something better. I hope this helps.
One of the strongest psychological truths in the Bible is that people will beg for slavery when freedom becomes uncertain. That's not ancient history. That's human psychology. The children of Israel are delivered from Egypt, from bondage, from enslavement, from misery. Miracles after miracles after miracles. And then God leads them into the wilderness. Uncertainty, discomfort, no roadmap. And almost immediately they say, let's go back. Back to slavery, back to the chains, back to hell. Why? Because the devil you know feels safer than the future you don't. Bondage was predictable. The wilderness isn't. And psychologically, most people would rather suffer in familiarity than risk growth in uncertainty. But here's the rule of life. You cannot get from captivity to the promised land without passing through the wilderness first. There is no shortcut around uncertainty. So the children of Israel finally get to the edge of the promised land, and they send 12 spies in. 10 come back saying, yes, it's everything God promised, but we're not strong enough. There's giants, walled cities, and the odds are impossible. Only 2 say, yes, it's hard, but the same God who freed us from slavery can carry us forward. The same facts, same land, same obstacles, different voices. That's your mind. Every time you consider change, growth, healing, becoming better, you send out spies, and most of your thoughts come back saying something like, it's too risky, too hard, you'll fail, just stay where you are. 10 voices of fear, 2 voices of faith, and everything hinges on which report you choose to believe. The tragedy with the children of Israel is that they listened to the 10 spies with the negative report, and because of it, they had to wander in the wilderness until an entire generation died. That's the price of avoiding uncertainty. Not growth, not pain, but stagnation, fear. Faith is not pretending things aren't hard. Faith is choosing courage when fear has more evidence. The wilderness isn't punishment. It's the passage. And the promised land is never taken by the majority vote of your thoughts, only by the few that trust God enough to move forward anyway. Don't go back to Egypt. Face up to the uncertainty, and you'll make it to the promised land.
Only problem with a human being is, a human being does not know what is a full-fledged human being. He is always confused about it. Because in nature has drawn 2 lines for all the other creatures. Between these 2 lines, they live and die. But for a human being, the top line has kind of faded away. So what is full-fledged human being is not defined. So essentially, a human being is free, but he's struggling with his freedom. It's like if you put a bird in a cage and feed it nicely, he becomes a fat bird. Then one day you take away the door, but he won't fly. Most human beings are in this condition. Though evolution has removed the top line for us, we could be anything we wish to be. We don't do that. We try to live like animals, identifying with limited things, because we've gotten used to the comfort of the cage, that we don't mind giving up the flying.
Cage where we feel like we are locked in and we can't be free.
No, not like that, not like that. People are always trying to bind themselves to something or somebody or whatever, because freedom is a scary thing.
Sure, I agree.
All the identities that people are taking up, whether a family or nationhood or religion or race or whatever else, essentially they're trying to bind themselves, to define themselves. But the whole process of evolution was to get us to a place where we could be beyond definition.
Throughout my life, I always said I wanted peace, but deep down, I was terrified by it. Sometimes I still am. Because peace equals quiet, and in the quiet, there's no noise to hide behind. It's just me, and every version of me that I never made peace with. Whenever my life would start to go well, I would just sabotage it. I'd destroy good things just to feel like myself again. I would find reasons to drown in what I already survived. Not because I like the pain, but because pain is the only thing that is familiar to me. It's like my nervous system learned that the only way to feel alive is through pain. Because suffering gave me identity, it gave me story, it made me feel real. I didn't fear pain, I feared the emptiness that comes when it's gone. Because then I'd have to face myself and ask, who am I when I'm not broken?
So what exactly is anxiety and despair? Anxiety is unfocused fear or dizziness of freedom. The possibilities of anything happening is dreadful. This dizziness comes from looking into the abyss of the unknown. So this anxious dread comes from putting a light to the immense darkness. Yes, Adam was free to obey or disobey God. He chose the latter not because it was evil, it was the daunting unknown that fostered curiosity. It was the anxious freedom that created sin when he ate the forbidden fruit. How do you control this anxious freedom? Well, anxiety can save one from dread. The fear forces us to self-reflection. Analyzing oneself can foster your true identity and create personal responsibility. Mindfulness anxiety can guide you to understanding and correcting your habits, choices, and deceptive behaviors. So anxiety is an alert system guiding your consciousness to color the unknown.
We don't experience the world, we experience our nervous systems. Meaning two people can be in the exact same environment and have two completely different experiences. One person with a regulated nervous system might be experiencing peace and joy, while another person in that same situation might experience anxiousness and fear. The difference isn't the situation that they're in, but it's the state of their nervous systems. This is why being able to be in a state of safety in your body can sometimes be so much more important than actually trying to change what's around you, because no matter how good things become around you, you won't be able to feel good if you're stuck in that state of survival. You can get all the material things that you want, but if you're feeling unsafe in your own body, you won't be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Now, this is not to scare you, but just to say that we need to prioritize helping ourselves feel safe as much as we try to change our environment. Now, the good news is that our bodies are constantly adapting and we can be brought back into a state of safety, even if we haven't felt that safety in a very long time. It will take time, but it is possible.
Your addiction's not a character flaw. Your nervous system is just dysregulated and it found something that works. And here's why that matters. When your body is in threat mode, fight, flight, freeze, it's desperate for regulation, and it will take whatever gets it there the fastest. That's what alcohol is, what scrolling is, what overworking is, or overeating. And it's not weakness, it's not lack of discipline. It's a nervous system doing exactly what it was supposed to do, what it was designed to do. And that's to find safety by any means available. The reason why willpower doesn't work is because willpower lives in the prefrontal cortex, and when the nervous system is dysregulated, the prefrontal cortex is the first thing that goes offline. You can't think your way out of a body level problem. What actually works is giving the nervous system what it was looking for in the first place. What it's looking for is safety signals, so breath, movement, sensation, and co-regulation.
The addiction that you have to anything is because of a dysregulated nervous system. Not because you have an addictive personality, it's because the trauma you've experienced has caused your nervous system to live in a continuous state of survival. So you are constantly surviving. An addiction to anything is an escape from something. If I'm addicted to substances, that's because my sober state doesn't feel good. So having the substance makes me feel better. If I'm addicted to the gym, then going to the gym less or not as much doesn't feel good. So by going to the gym and overdoing it actually feels better. The same with work. If I'm not constantly at work, I don't feel good. I feel anxious. So whatever the addiction is to, it's a way of escaping not feeling good. That not feeling good is because of your dysregulated nervous system. And what the mainstream therapy and healing communities teach you is coping, how to manage and adapt to the stress. But the adaptation to that stress means that it's there. So you will always rely on something in order to feel better. That feeling not good is your dysregulated nervous system. So by learning how to resolve the trauma and regulate your nervous system, you will no longer require or be reliant on that thing that you are addicted to in order to escape not feeling good, because that feeling good is happening from within.
People who've never fought addiction, they always say stuff like, just stop thinking about it, or keep busy, or go for a run, or travel, clear your head. And you're stood there thinking, if it were that easy, don't you think I'd have done it by now? They don't feel that itch under your skin, that panic in your chest, that voice in your head that whispers, you're nothing without it. They don't know what it's like waking up every morning, fighting your own brain, or crying in the shower because you made it one more day sober and you're proud and terrified at the same time.
If you are listening tonight and this feels familiar, hear this. Research shows addiction isn't about willpower. It's your nervous system fighting for relief. Advice like just stop thinking about it misses the point. because the urge isn't a thought, it's physical. Early recovery often brings more anxiety, not less. Feeling proud and terrified at the same time is common. So if you're waking up every day arguing with your own brain, you're not failing, you're doing the work.
Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, my ambition is to become a drug addict and break the law. I mean, think about it. It's a response to pain. Not only that, those traumatic experiences shape the brain itself, the physiology of essential brain circuits, in a way that'll bias that brain towards addictive behaviors, including with substances. I won't go into the neurophysiology of it now, but it's simply brain science. That's not even vaguely controversial. But of course, even physicians don't learn about it, let alone judges, lawyers, or prosecutors.
And if you wake up in the morning and you're not being defined by a vision in the future, as you see the same people and you go to the same places and you do the exact same thing at the exact same time, it's no longer that your personality is creating your personal reality. Now your personal reality is affecting or creating your personality. Your environment is really controlling how you think and feel unconsciously, because every person, everything, every place, every experience has a neurological network in your brain. Every experience that you have with every person produces an emotion. So some people will use their boss to reaffirm their addiction to judgment. They'll use their enemy to reaffirm their addiction to hatred. They'll use their friends to reaffirm their addiction to suffering. So now they need the outer world to feel something. So to change then is to be greater than your environment.
The conscious mind has wishes, desires, aspirations. What do you want from your life? Creative. Conscious mind is about 10%. The rest of the brain, 90%, is called the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is primarily habits. And the fundamental habits didn't come from me. The last trimester of pregnancy and the first 7 years of your life, your brain is operating at a low vibrational frequency called theta. And theta is hypnosis. How do you learn to be a member of a family, in a community, in a culture? You watch other people. You focus on your family, see how they do everything. You learn from everybody else. So the programs that you get for the first 7 years are not yours. They came from other people, and they pass that on to you. But the problem is, it's not just the previous generation, the generation before, the generation before, so we pass down through the family. Here's the problem, big time. Science has found that 95% of our life we're thinking. When the conscious mind is thinking, it's not paying attention. When the conscious mind is not paying attention, the subconscious program is the default. Well, if you understand that, then it says only 5% of the time you're running your life with your creative mind, the wishes and the desires and what you want. 5%, 95% of your life is coming from the program. Yeah, but the program is not your wishes and desires. It's other people's behavior. 95% of the day you are playing programs that psychologists tell us are limiting, disempowering, self-sabotaging. All of us, every one of us, every day, plays programs that we don't see, and they're not ours. All we see is the result. And we go, oh my goodness, this is not what I wanted. Yeah, but this is what you created.
Most people think their brain is fixed. It's not. Your brain is literally rewiring itself every single day. The only question is, in which direction? There are actually 3 ways your brain changes. The first is chemical. This is why cramming before an exam works. When you study intensely, the signals between your neurons get stronger. For a few hours, your brain is firing faster. But the next day, most of it disappears because nothing permanent changed. The second way your brain changes is structural. This happens through repetition. Think about a pianist playing with their eyes closed. They're not thinking about every note. At some point, it's no longer thinking, it's wiring. The brain has already built a pathway. The third way your brain changes is functional. Before GPS existed, London taxi drivers had to memorize the entire city. Brain scans show their hippocampus, the brain's navigation center, actually expanded. Training changed their brain, which leads to something most people never realize. Every habit you repeat is physically rewiring your brain. Reading, training, scrolling, drinking, all of it. Most people aren't lazy, they're just running on old wiring. And here's the part most people miss. There's no such thing as standing still. Your brain is either wiring for growth or wiring for decay. The direction is decided by what you repeat every day.
Can you learn new things? Can you unlearn certain patterns? Can you overcome traumas at any age? The answer is absolutely, categorically, yes. How? Well, it's very clear that as a child, until about age 25, more or less, just passive experience will shape the brain, for better or worse. After about age 25, and again, these are not strict cutoffs, we can change our brain, but what's required is a marked shift in the neurochemical environment under which something happens. So one of the reasons why any traumatic event will forever be remembered, although, by the way, you can remove some of the emotional load of that, trauma does not have to be traumatic forever, is because when we see or experience something very intense of a fearful nature, there's the release of certain what we call neuromodulators, things like epinephrine, adrenaline, and other neuromodulators that cause a state shift in our body and brain. And the nervous system recognizes this as unusual, and as a consequence, in the subsequent days, there's reordering of the connections so that the brain can prepare for that event should it happen again. This is why we have what's called one trial learning. You go to a certain location, something terrible happens there, you will forever associate that location with something terrible. But there are tools, therapy and other tools, that can allow the emotional load to be removed from that so that you could go to that location and feel calm, no fear whatsoever. The good news is you can also learn anything you want to learn, provided there's a shift in this neurochemical environment. This is why when we are very interested and focused on something, two of the main requirements for neuroplasticity, we have to be alert and we have to be focused.
And then if you said, okay, enough of this guilt. I've felt enough of it. I don't like feeling that way. I could actually break the conditioning of that emotion in my body. Can I condition my body? Can I teach my body to feel something differently? What would be the feeling that I want to feel if I was able to do it? Would it be worth? Would it be self-love? Would it be freedom? Would it be joy? Let me teach my body emotionally what a future could actually feel like before it happens. If you keep doing it over and over again, you're going to start making more of those chemicals, and it's going to become easier for you to do it.
You are not who you think you are. Your personality, your habits, your limits, none of it is fixed. They're just stories your brain keeps retelling because no one ever interrupted the loop. But here's the mind-blowing truth. You can rewire your entire identity, not in theory, in structure. Your brain is neuroplastic, meaning it reshapes itself every time you think a new thought, take a new action, or imagine a new future. You are not stuck. You're just rehearsing the old you on autopilot. Every belief you have about yourself, I'm shy, I'm bad with money, I can't focus, is nothing more than a well-worn neural pathway. And like a muscle, those pathways can be rebuilt. The process is simple, but not easy. First, you must define who you want to be with surgical clarity. Then you repeatedly think, speak, and act like that version of yourself, long before the world recognizes it. With enough consistency, the old pathways weaken from disuse, while the new identity hardwires itself in your brain's structure. This isn't self-help. It's self-directed evolution. Science has established that neurons that fire together wire together. That means your future self isn't created by motivation, but by repetition. Repetition of new thoughts, repetition of new actions, repetition of identity-aligned choices. Over time, your brain literally forgets how to be the old you. And that's when the real magic begins. When success stops feeling like a goal and starts feeling like your nature.
Nothing in your life can permanently change until you change the way you see yourself. You can't consistently act in a way that's out of alignment with your self-image. That's why real change never starts with effort. It starts with identity. If you see yourself as someone who struggles, you'll find proof of that everywhere. If you see yourself as someone capable and confident, you'll naturally behave in ways that confirm it. Your subconscious mind always works to make your reality match your self-concept. It listens not to what you say, but to what you believe about yourself when you're quiet. That's why lasting transformation doesn't come from forcing new habits. It comes from deciding, this is who I am now. When you choose a new identity, your behavior follows. Opportunities appear. People treat you differently, and success starts to feel normal. Because the world doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who you've decided to become.
The easiest way, or the simplest way, to break the rhythms which are compulsive within you is to start doing things that you don't like. You would like to start the morning with a chocolate, but here you start with a neem ball. Just what you don't like. If you want to break your emotional rhythms, the simplest thing is to look for somebody that you cannot stand and to work with them. These are simplest tools, may be drastic, but if you don't want to waste time in your life, that's the way to go. To just get up in the morning and do what you don't like. And after some time, you will see your likes and dislikes are essentially your making. They are not some God-given laws as to what you should like and what you should dislike. It's got nothing to do with the object of your like or the object of your dislike. It is just your compulsiveness which draws you to certain things and repels you from certain other things.
Discipline isn't willpower, it's a muscle. And if you don't train it, it weakens. Most people think they lack discipline because they're lazy, but the truth is, your brain avoids effort by default. That's survival wiring. Conserve energy, do the easiest thing, seek comfort. Discipline only feels impossible because your brain's pathways aren't used to resistance. Just like untrained muscles, they fatigue fast. But every time you choose the harder thing, those pathways strengthen, making the next choice easier. Start small, take the stairs, finish that 5-minute task, put your phone down once. These micro reps train the discipline muscle. Over time, what felt impossible becomes automatic. Your brain isn't broken, it just needs reps. Train it, and discipline becomes less about force and more about flow. Follow neural paths, and let's build that strength together.
Every decision you make is a coordinate, a precise input into a system that responds with complete indifference to your emotions and total fidelity to your actions. The nervous system does not evaluate what you meant to do. It builds its architecture around what you actually did repeatedly over time. Neuroscience is unambiguous on this. Every action you take either reinforces a neural pathway that pulls you toward expansion or activates one that returns you to contraction. There is no neutral decision. There is no inconsequential choice. The small ones accumulate with the same mathematical certainty as the large ones, and the direction they collectively point is the direction your life moves. Good decisions compound forward. Poor decisions compound backward. And the compounding does not wait for your awareness of it. It runs silently, continuously, beneath every plan you make and every goal you set. This is why discipline is not a personality trait. It is a navigation system. And why clarity is not a luxury. It is the minimum requirement for moving in the right direction at all. So the question you bring to every fork in the road is not, how do I feel about this? The question is, does this take me closer to what I am building or further from it? Answer that honestly. Then act on the answer without negotiation. Because the life you are living 3 years from now is simply the sum of the decisions you are making right now, running forward at full speed.
The quickest way to not waste lifetime, set up a schedule and just do the work. Free from how you feel. because also feelings sometimes, you wake up one day, you feel this way, you wake up the next day, you feel another way. And it's just not helpful to base your structure or your goal on how you feel.
A lot of times we forget just how badass we are. So what I do, and I've done for so many years, is I write down. I've been writing, so this book right here, this is just about a 3-year book, but I've been writing down for years what I do. So I open up to a page today, look at it, and I go through looking at 18 miles, 16 miles, 17 miles, 15 miles, 16, 116 mile week, 123 mile week, 20, 18, 16, all by myself, trading alone, fucking push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, all this shit I write down here to remind me of the work I put into the craft that is myself. So we have to always remember our purpose will always be there. I have nothing in front of me right now. No race, no nothing. But the purpose is myself. Your mind has to be stronger than your feelings. On those bad days, when you think that you're alone, you just might be. Because you know why? No one else wants to fucking do it. So you be the motherfucker that always gets it done. Stay hard.
You're not broken for being addicted to your pain. You just got used to surviving more than living. But survival was never meant to be your permanent state. The addiction ends when you stop mistaking pain for proof that you're alive. Okay, pain was fire that forged you, but you don't need to burn anymore to prove you can survive the flames. You've already walked through hell. Now it's time to leave the ashes behind and reclaim your peace.
A man who doesn't seek approval can't be manipulated, because the moment you need validation, even a little bit, you become predictable. You start adjusting without even realizing it. You say things a certain way so people won't take it the wrong way. You explain yourself more than you need to. You replay conversations in your head like, did that land right? You feel that little shift when someone's tone changes. You notice the energy get weird and you try to fix it. And right there, you're in it. Now they can guilt you. Now they can shame you. Now they can make you second guess yourself. Not because they're powerful, but because they found a part of you that still needs to be liked. And once someone finds that, they have leverage. You can't manipulate someone who doesn't need your approval. When that need drops, there's nothing to grab onto anymore. No pressure point, no hook. You say what you mean, you let people react how they react, and you move on. And that kind of person feels different. You can't steer him. You can't pull him back in because he's not playing for approval anymore. The highest form of peace is having zero desire to be understood, admired, pitied, or recognized. At first, that sounds extreme, like you're supposed to stop caring what people think. But that's not really what it means. What it means is you stop needing those things from the outside. You stop explaining yourself to people who already decided who you are. You stop chasing admiration from people who secretly want you to stay small. You stop looking for sympathy from people who don't actually care. You stop waiting for recognition from people who are never paying attention in the first place. Because when you need all of that from the outside, your peace is always in someone else's hand. Their opinion controls your mood. Their silence controls your self-worth. Their attention decides whether you feel important or invisible. And that's not peace, that's dependence. The shift is this. It's not that those needs disappear. It's that you start giving those things to yourself. You understand yourself, you respect yourself, you acknowledge your own effort. And once that happens, the noise of the world gets very quiet. That's where peace actually starts.
The reason you're seeking approval, and I've fallen into this trap, I was like, I just want everyone to love me. Why did I want that? Because I thought that if enough people out there loved me, it would give me permission to love myself. They'll get into a relationship, they get really attached to their partner, and they're like, if this person only loves me more, then I can love myself. The same with, you know what, I'm gonna try to control people and control how they think and react to me and control life so I can just feel safe. What you're actually seeking is safety within. You just don't feel at home and safe within. If you felt that safe within and at ease within, it doesn't matter what happens out there, you know you can handle it.
The fear of rejection, which is the #1 human fear. People say it's public speaking. You're afraid of speaking because of a potential rejection. So they were wired to stay in the tribe. And that's why these fears got passed down. Let's start with one rule. Our ancestors are more likely to survive if they mistook a rock for a bear and not a bear for a rock. So we can agree on this premise that given a set of values, it's safer for us biologically to default to a negative interpretation of something. Our brain cannot fulfill the social part of what we need, but this can fulfill the need of exile. It can't give us a feeling of connection, which is why we have a pandemic of loneliness right now across the world. We get this placebo of connection here. That doesn't fulfill us whatsoever, but the negative effects do affect us. The final point of this social media thing is it very covertly trains all of us to confuse attention with connection. So we might be getting some of this attention and we're thinking that it is connection. It's the same way it also teaches us to confuse pleasure with happiness or pleasure with actual enjoyment of life. Like these short-term dopamine spikes versus a long-term serotonin enjoyment of something, the happiness. So those are the two big confusions: attention for connection and pleasure for happiness.
According to neuroscience, if you're somebody that seeks external validation, that is because you have an overactive default mode network, and that part of your brain is responsible for self-judgment and rumination. The default mode network kicks in when you're not focused on a task. So you're waiting for them to text you back. You're waiting for that phone call. You're lying in bed, replaying the situation in the text messages, waiting to see if this person's gonna choose you or if you're gonna be abandoned. And if your sense of self was built around needing that external validation, whether that be from insecurity or childhood, then that network lights up because there is a perceived rejection. And this isn't just emotional, this is actually neurological. Your brain fills that silence with self-doubt. And then when there's no external input, your brain starts to create stories. Did I say too much? Was I too needy? Did I come off too much? And when you're not getting that reassurance, your brain literally goes against you. And it's not about stopping those voices, it's about interrupting the loop. Start to ask yourself, what am I needing right now that I keep hoping somebody else is going to satisfy? And what's true right now, not what I'm scared is going to be true. So just because they didn't text you or respond back doesn't mean that they don't like you anymore. That's your fear. Okay, what am I scared of happening? I'm gonna be abandoned or forgotten. So it's not actually about them. It's about your core beliefs being reaffirmed by their silence. Anchor yourself back in your body. I'm here right now, I am validated, and I am safe.
We don't experience the world, we experience our nervous systems, meaning two people can be in the exact same environment and have two completely different experiences. One person with a regulated nervous system might be experiencing peace and joy, while another person in that same situation might experience anxiousness and fear. The difference isn't the situation that they're in, but it's the state of their nervous systems. This is why being able to be in a state of safety in your body can sometimes be so much more important than actually trying to change what's around you, because no matter how good things become around you, you won't be able to feel good if you're stuck in that state of survival.
People pleasing is not a personality trait. And it's not just being nice. It's a survival strategy that your nervous system built when you were a child. And now it's costing you your authentic life. Growing up, you might have got gold stars for being good or quiet, maybe even for agreeing or making everyone feel comfortable. And you were told you were the good one, and that felt like love. So you kept shrinking, and then you learned to scan the room for what people needed, and you delivered it to them before they even asked. You became a master at reading moods and invisible in your own life. And in relationship, this looks like never saying what you actually want, or maybe saying, I'm fine, when you're not, or maybe going along with plans that you hate. Maybe it's letting resentment quietly build. So here's the counterintuitive cue. Disappoint someone on purpose, not cruelly, not carelessly, but practice saying no, and practice saying what you actually think. and let someone be momentarily uncomfortable and notice that you survive. Because the truth is, the people that actually love you can hold your no. And relationships that only work when you erase yourself aren't relationships, they're performances.
Do you ever feel like you're just tired of people in general? If so, I get it. And here's something you can ask yourself in these moments that might reveal what is happening under the surface. Instead of just, I'm so tired of everyone and withdrawing from relationships, try this. Ask yourself, am I tired of everyone? Or am I tired of the roles I'm always performing on behalf of everyone? In other words, am I tired of who I become in order to belong and be accepted? Because that part, that second thing, that's different. That's about a role you're playing, and you can work on the roles you play, and you can even step out of them. Maybe it's not that you can't stand people. Maybe it's that you're tired of playing along and abandoning yourself. And if that's what's happening, it's time to listen to your instincts and reconnect. And consider, what would it mean to bring more of you into the right relationships? Withdrawing can be part of this, because getting space might help you learn who you are outside of other people's expectations.
How do you get over your fear of rejection? So 2 or 3 things. The first is, oftentimes our fear of the thing is worse than the thing itself. I know it hurts to be rejected, but really what hurts about rejection is not the rejection, it's all the crap that we attach to the rejection. So if I ask someone out on a date and they say no, I'm gonna live 70 more years on the planet, they're gonna live 70 years on the planet. There are 1 million human beings, billion human beings on the planet who have been rejected by a romantic partner and live a completely fulfilling life. That's not why the rejection hurts. The rejection hurts because their rejection exposes what I believe about myself, that I am unlovable, that this person's rejection will mean that the next person will reject me, that I'm screwed up in some way. So as long as that psychological vulnerability is there, rejection will hurt a lot. But it's important to understand it's not the rejection itself that hurts. It's the meaning that you attach to it. Second thing is, one of the best ways to get over rejection is to get rejected a handful of times. You know, when we face adversity, our bodies and our brains learn how to handle it. So in the same way that if I start walking on a treadmill or running on a treadmill and I feel really exhausted, the more I do it, the easier it'll get.
You have to face your fears. You have to put yourself in precisely the situations that you are afraid of. You've got to literally force yourself into those circumstances so you realize that your fears are irrational. They're not based on reality. Our fears are not in proportion to the actual threat that we're facing. And you're not going to realize that until you actually go into those situations.
Whenever we feel offended by something someone else says, it is because there is a fear inside of us that it may be true. The point is, it's going to be easier to dismiss criticism that you know is not true. And the more the criticism hurts you, the more you need to look at yourself and ask yourself why it's hurting you.
Stoicism simply gives you your power back. Stoicism shifts you from the state of reacting to responding to life. Stoicism is actually admitting that, hey, I do have emotions. I do have fear. I do feel pressure. I do have insecurities, and it's not suppressing that. It's understanding that this is part of the human experience, but I need to remember I am the observer of these emotions. I am not a prisoner that is being held captive by these emotions. Reaction is automatic, while responding is intentional. And because of this, you do not allow yourself to get too low with the lows, and you do not allow yourself to get carried away with the highs. And because of this, you are able to continue to stay steady, which allows you to consistently improve every single day.
Self-esteem is earned by yourself, with yourself. Someone can say your whole life, you're beautiful, you're gorgeous, you're so smart, and you can fear you're not. On the other hand, you can be told by people you're a piece of worthless piece of junk, you'll never be this, and that person can say, screw you, I'll show you who I am. So what people have said has zero impact on your self-esteem, and telling people they're great or not great does not change it. Teaching them to have grit, teaching them to push through. The way you develop esteem for yourself is by doing difficult things that you know are right.
One of the most powerful things you can learn is how to be alone. Actually alone. No noise, no people, no distractions. Just you and your dark thoughts. Most people can't do it. Deep down, they are scared of silence. They are scared of what comes up when the noise dies down. If you can sit in a room with your own mind and not lose it, if you can spend time alone without needing to numb out or run, that is control. That is peace. The goal isn't to be liked by everyone. The goal is to be okay with yourself when no one is around.
Solitude is for the brave, not for everyone. Only those who master it discover true freedom. Those who walk alone are not lonely. They're focused. They don't chase company. They attract peace. They don't depend on validation. Their approval comes from within. They use solitude to rebuild, to grow, to observe. While others seek distraction, they seek mastery. They know that being alone doesn't mean being incomplete. It means being free. The one who learns to walk alone becomes untouchable, because solitude is where the soul remembers its strength.
Grow in silence. Not everything you do needs to be announced, and not every move you make needs to be posted. You don't need to tell the whole world what you're working on, and you don't need everyone's validation to make your progress real. The real ones let their work, their change, and their peace kind of speak for itself. People love the results. They'll never fully understand the quiet battles you had to win to get there. You know, the temptations you resisted, the moments you almost gave up but didn't. And that's why it's so important to not let everyone know what you're up to. The goals that you have is yours to protect and stay focused on. It's yours to keep building until it's strong enough to stand on its own. So grow and move in silence, and when it's time, let the results speak for you. And you gotta realize a lot of the times, more people means more drama. So when you keep your things private, you won't be distracted as much, which is way better for self-growth. To stay disciplined and have that tunnel vision, stop announcing every move you're going to make. Just do your own thing quietly and let people know when you're done.
If you can walk away from it, it's yours forever. The moment you don't need something, it loses the ability to control you. Most people end up losing things because they cling to it too tightly. They negotiate their standards, they tolerate disrespect, and they stay longer than they should because fear convinces them that walking away means losing. But real ownership isn't external, it's internal. If you can walk away from a job, you chose it. If you can walk away from a relationship, you stayed out of desire, not dependence. If you can walk away from validation, your worth isn't up for rent. Beneath the surface, when you're attached to something, your nervous system is in threat mode. Fear of loss keeps stress circuits active. You overthink, you stress, you chase, you compromise. Your behavior becomes reactive because your brain believes survival is tied to the outcome. You can walk away, that fear shuts off. Your thinking clears and you stop overreacting, and you start has leverage over you because your nervous system isn't being held hostage. That's why detachment always feels calm. It's not apathy, it's regulation. Anything that you can't walk away from already owns you. It dictates your decisions, it controls your peace. Walking away doesn't mean you lose it, it means you were never trapped by it. And once that fear is gone, nothing can be taken from you because you were never dependent on it to begin with.
Detachment doesn't just free you from people. It frees you from versions of yourself that were built on fear, on scarcity, on abandonment wounds, and on emotional survival mode. Detachment breaks the identity that was formed inside of that dysfunction. Because once your peace stops depending on people, nobody can actually manipulate you. Once your worth stops depending on attention, nobody can bait you. And once your joy stops depending on those outcomes, nobody can actually shake it. It feels good to be unshakable.
A man's true power is not in wealth, not in titles, not in the obedience of others. It is in mastery over himself. Do not waste time on what you cannot control. The rain will fall, the wind will blow, but none of these things have power over you unless you allow it. Your mind is the fortress. Guard it well, and nothing can break you. Adversity does not destroy a man. It reveals him. Pain, loss, failure. These are not punishments. but lessons, and the greatest lesson, that you alone decide how you respond. Weak men crumble under pressure, strong men rise. Those who blame the world remain prisoners of fate, but those who take responsibility, they become unstoppable. So stand firm, be unshaken, and remember, your power is in your mind, and no one can take that from you.
The most dangerous shift in a person's life is when they finally stop chasing the people who never cared and start observing everything with a calm, detached mind. It doesn't happen suddenly. It builds slowly. First, you get tired of explaining yourself. Then you get tired of being misunderstood. Then you get tired of giving people chances they never deserved. And eventually, you just go quiet. You stop reacting. You stop defending yourself. You stop proving your worth to anyone. And here's the part most people don't understand. Your silence isn't weakness. It's transformation. Because once you learn to detach emotionally, you start seeing people exactly as they are, not as you wish they were. Psychology says the person who doesn't seek validation is the one who holds all the power. You will never attract a new financial life with an old financial identity. You cannot keep thinking like scarcity, reacting like scarcity, spending like scarcity, avoiding money like scarcity, and then expect abundance to suddenly appear in your life. Money does not come only to the person who is busy. Money does not come only to the person who is exhausted. Money does not even stay with the person who simply wants it badly. Money stays with the person who has trained the mind to expect it, respect it, manage it, and multiply it. This is not just motivation. This is not entertainment. This is instruction. Because before wealth ever appears in your bank account, it must first become normal inside your nervous system. Before your outer life changes, your inner architecture must change. Before you can hold more money, you must become the kind of person who no longer fears more money. And that is where most people fail. They say they want abundance, but they are still addicted to scarcity. They say they want financial freedom, but they avoid looking at their bank account. They say they want success, but they feel guilty for wanting more. They say they want to be rich, but deep inside, they still believe money is dangerous, selfish, hard, impossible, or only available to other people. So they chase money with fear. They spend money with guilt. They receive money with discomfort. They talk about money with shame. And then they wonder why wealth never feels safe. Listen carefully. You do not have a money problem first. You have a pattern problem. You have a nervous system that has been trained to survive, not expand. You have a brain that has been trained to scan for danger, not opportunity. You have old emotional programs running in the background, deciding what you think is possible, what you think you deserve, and what you think you are allowed to receive. That is why abundance is not just about earning more. Abundance is about becoming someone who can see more, hold more, build more, and receive more without collapsing back into fear. Your brain is running scarcity software. For thousands of years, scarcity helped humans survive. If there was not enough food, not enough shelter, not enough safety, the brain had to protect you. It had to compare. It had to compete. It had to watch every threat. But today, that same old survival system can sabotage your future. When someone else succeeds, the scarcity brain sees it as a threat. When an opportunity appears, the scarcity brain sees risk first. When money enters your life, the scarcity brain asks, "What if I lose it?" When money leaves your life, the scarcity brain says, "See, there is never enough." And slowly, your world becomes smaller. Scarcity makes you grab. Scarcity makes you hide. Scarcity makes you avoid. Scarcity makes you compare. Scarcity makes you resent the success of other people instead of learning from it. But abundance does the opposite. Abundance makes you create. Abundance makes you share. Abundance makes you learn. Abundance makes you see opportunity where fear used to live. Abundance makes you ask, what can I build? What can I improve? What value can I bring? What skill can I master? What door can I open? This is not about pretending. This is not about lying to yourself. This is about updating your mind to match the future you are trying to enter. Because your brain can change, your habits can change, your emotional reactions can change, your relationship with money can change. But it will not change by accident. It changes through awareness, repetition, emotion, and action. At any age, you can learn new patterns. At any age, you can unlearn old ones. But as an adult, your brain does not change passively. You cannot just hear a sentence once and become a new person. You cannot just watch a video and expect your whole identity to transform. You must become alert. You must become focused. You must choose the new pattern again and again until the brain understands. This is who we are now. That is neuroplasticity. Your brain forms and strengthens connections through repeated experience. Every time you think a thought, rehearse an identity, take a new action, or respond differently than before, you are giving your brain evidence. You are teaching it what to become. This is why mental rehearsal is powerful. When you begin to think about a new possibility, your brain begins to fire in new sequences, new patterns, and new combinations. When you mentally rehearse who you are becoming, you begin to install new neurological circuits. Your brain stops being only a record of your past. It becomes a map to your future. But most people never use this power. They wake up and rehearse the same life. They rehearse the same stress. They rehearse the same money fear. They rehearse the same complaints. They look at their current results and use those results to decide who they are. They say, I do not have enough money, so I am not abundant. They say, I failed before, so I will fail again. They say, I am bad with money, so I will always be bad with money. And by repeating the old story, they keep building the old brain. But if you want a new financial life, you must stop letting your bank account be the only voice in your identity. Your current bank account is feedback. It is not your destiny. Your current income is information. It is not your identity. Your current habits are evidence of who you have practiced being. They are not a life sentence. So stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting to feel confident. Stop waiting to feel rich before you start behaving like someone who can build wealth. The brain does not wait for confidence to magically appear. The brain rewires when you act. If you want to become confident, you must begin standing, speaking, choosing, and moving like a confident person before confidence feels natural. If you want to become disciplined, you must act with discipline before discipline becomes automatic. If you want to become financially powerful, you must start making financially powerful decisions before you feel financially powerful. The more you live it, the more your brain believes it. And the more your brain believes it, the more natural it becomes. There are stages to this transformation. First is awareness. You must see the pattern clearly. You must notice how you think about money, how you talk about money, how you react when money comes in, and how you react when money leaves. You must notice whether you avoid money conversations. You must notice whether you compare yourself to people online. You must notice whether you feel shame when you look at your numbers. You must notice whether receiving compliments, gifts, help, support, or payment makes you uncomfortable. Because your ability to receive in one area of life is connected to your ability to receive in another. If you cannot receive praise, you may struggle to receive opportunity. If you cannot receive support, you may struggle to receive wealth. If you cannot receive attention without shrinking, you may struggle to receive success without guilt. Awareness is uncomfortable because it removes the excuse, but awareness is also freedom. Because once you can see the pattern, you are no longer trapped inside it. The second phase is disruption. You must interrupt the old automatic behavior. If you usually avoid your bank account, open it. If you usually complain when a bill arrives, pause and change the meaning. If you usually say, "I am terrible with money," replace it with, "I am learning how to manage money with clarity." If you usually feel jealous when someone succeeds, train yourself to say, "Their success is proof that more is possible." This will feel unnatural at first. That is normal. Your brain prefers the familiar, even when the familiar is painful. Old pathways are easier. Old stories use less energy. Old reactions feel automatic because you have practiced them for years. But your future requires a new pattern, and a new pattern requires friction. The third phase is repetition. You cannot rewire 20 years of scarcity with 20 seconds of positive thinking. You must repeat the new identity. You must repeat the new choice. You must repeat the new emotional state. You must repeat the new behavior until the brain begins to understand that this is not a temporary mood. This is the new standard. For the next 30 days, train your mind. Do not just visualize once. Do not just affirm once. Do not just make one good decision and then return to the old self. Repeat every morning, every night, every day. See the future. Feel the future. Act toward the future. Then take one physical step that proves you are serious. Because visualization without action becomes fantasy. But visualization with action becomes identity. The fourth phase is integration. This is when the new behavior starts to feel natural. This is when the new thought becomes easier to believe. This is when the new financial standard becomes part of who you are. You are no longer forcing yourself to act differently. You are becoming different. And that is the point, not to chase money from fear, but to become someone who creates value, manages resources, sees opportunity, and moves with calm certainty. But before that happens, you must deal with your money blocks. Money blocks are not always obvious. They are not always loud. Sometimes they hide inside avoidance. You avoid money conversations because they bring up shame. You avoid successful people because their success triggers your insecurity. You avoid looking at your numbers because the truth feels heavy. You compare your financial situation to strangers on the internet and then feel behind in life. You see someone your age buying a house, building a business, traveling the world, or earning more than you. And suddenly your brain begins to say, I am not enough, I am late, I am failing. That shame cycle is dangerous because shame does not create action. Shame creates paralysis, and paralysis keeps you exactly where you are. Another hidden block is the inability to receive. You struggle to receive compliments. You struggle to receive gifts. You struggle to receive support. You struggle to be celebrated. And if you cannot receive emotionally, you may also struggle to receive financially. Because money is not just numbers. Money is relationship. Money is trust. Money is responsibility. Money is stewardship. Money is a mirror of how you treat value. So ask yourself honestly, what is your relationship with money? If money walked into the room as a person, what would you feel? Would you feel fear? Would you feel guilt? Would you feel anger? Would you feel embarrassment? Would you try to impress it? Would you try to avoid it? Would you resent it? Would you beg it to stay? That reaction tells you something. Because many people do not need more money first. They need a healed relationship with money. You can change your relationship with money. You can stop chasing it out of fear and start building it from wisdom. You can stop using it to impress people and start using it to invest in your future. You can stop hiding from your bank account and start owning every number. You can stop saying, I am bad with money, and start learning like your future depends on it. Because it does. So ask yourself honestly, what is your relationship with money? If money walked into the room as a person, what would you feel? Would you feel fear? Would you feel guilt? Would you feel anger? Would you feel embarrassment? Would you try to impress it? Would you try to avoid it? Would you resent it? Would you beg it to stay? That reaction tells you something. Because many people do not need more money first. They need a healed relationship with money. You can change your relationship with money. You can stop chasing it out of fear and start building it from wisdom. You can stop using it to impress people and start using it to invest in your future. You can stop hiding from your bank account and start owning every number. You can stop saying, I am bad with money, and start learning like your future depends on it. Because it does. You can rewrite the money stories you were raised on. You can replace guilt with clarity. You can replace shame with strategy. You can replace scarcity with intention. It is not only about how much you have. It is about how you treat what you have. Because how you treat money determines whether it grows, disappears, or controls you. Many of your beliefs about money were formed before you ever understood money. As a child, you heard things. We cannot afford that. Money is hard to make. Rich people are greedy. There is never enough. You have to work yourself to death to survive. And without knowing it, those sentences became instructions. They became emotional programs. They became the invisible ceiling above your life. But now you are not a child anymore. Now you can choose. You can question the beliefs you inherited. You can stop treating old family fear as universal truth. You can decide that money is not evil. Money is a tool. Money is a resource. Money is a form of stored value. Money can build safety. Money can create freedom. Money can support your family. Money can fund your mission. Money can multiply your ability to help. So give up the belief that wanting more makes you bad. Give up the belief that ambition is shameful. Give up the belief that poverty is noble and wealth is corrupt. The truth is simpler. Money in the hands of an unconscious person can create destruction. Money in the hands of a disciplined, grounded, generous person can create impact. So become the person who can be trusted with more. Now train your brain to look for what is right. For every negative thought, give your brain a new task. When it says, "This is impossible," ask, "What part of this is possible?" When it says, "I am behind," ask, "What can I improve today?" When it says, "They are lucky," ask, "What can I learn from them?" When it says, "There is not enough," ask, "What value can I create?" This is how you retrain attention. This is how you teach the brain to scan for opportunity instead of threat. Gratitude is not weakness. Gratitude is training. It trains the mind to find evidence of support, progress, possibility, and abundance. And what the brain looks for, the brain begins to find. So ask yourself, how would an abundant person think? How would an abundant person walk? How would they breathe? How would they speak? How would they treat money? How would they open their banking app? How would they negotiate? How would they work? How would they learn? How would they show up on a hard day? How would they respond when things are slow? How would they respond when money comes in? How would they respond when money goes out? Close your eyes and rehearse that person. See how they move. See how they sit. See how they make decisions. See how they build. See how they stay calm. See how they create value. See how they handle pressure. See how they receive more without fear. This is not pretending. This is rehearsal. And mental rehearsal gives the brain a model. The more clearly you rehearse, the more familiar the new identity becomes. But now you must make it practical. Get clear on the exact amount you want to earn. Not vaguely, not someday, not more money. Be specific, per month, per year, per project, per business, per skill. Clarity gives the brain a target. Then create a simple affirmation. I am so grateful that I am now earning $10,000 a month through valuable work, clear thinking, and disciplined action. Use your own number. Use your own goal. But make it clear. Read it in the morning. Read it before bed. Then close your eyes and mentally rehearse. See the money arriving. See the number in your account. See the work you are doing to earn it. See the people being helped by your value. See the systems you are building. See the way your family feels. See the way your body feels when money no longer triggers panic. See yourself calm. See yourself focused. See yourself responsible. See yourself wealthy without losing your soul. And then ask the most important question. What can I do today to make this real? Not next year? Not when you feel ready? Today? What skill can you practice? What offer can you improve? What expense can you remove? What conversation can you stop avoiding? What number can you finally face? What habit can you build? What value can you create? What action can you take? Because the moment you take responsibility for your financial habits, even if you are broke, you begin building wealth. You do not need to wait until you are rich to act responsibly. You can cancel one unnecessary subscription. You can track your spending. You can transfer a small amount to savings. You can learn one financial concept. You can stop pretending you do not care about money. You can stop shaming ambition while secretly envying the results. You can stop avoiding the truth. That is where power begins. People who believe they can influence their future behave differently. They take responsibility. They take action. They learn. They build. They adjust. They do not just manifest. They move. Abundant people treat money differently. They appreciate it. They respect it. They are not weird about it. They learn about it. They are generous from wisdom, not from insecurity. They take calculated risks. They understand that if they want a different life, they must do things they have never done before. And most importantly, they build skill. Because the more skills you have, the less you worry about money. Money follows value. Money follows mastery. Money follows problem solved. Money follows usefulness. Most people enter a side hustle and immediately ask, how much money can I make? But the better question is, how good can I become? Because if you chase money before skill, you will quit when the money is slow. But if you chase mastery, money has a path to follow. Do not chase numbers first. Chase value. Build the skill. Sharpen the skill. Deepen the skill. Use the skill to serve. Use the skill to solve. Use the skill to create. Then money becomes the result of who you have become. This is why abundance requires obsession. Not obsession from fear. Obsession from devotion. You must be possessed by the future you are building. It must be on your mind, not as pressure, but as excitement. Your body must get a taste of the future so strongly that getting out of bed and making a different choice becomes worth it. And yes, the old voices will appear. They will say, "This is not you." They will say, "You cannot do this." They will say, "Go back to what is familiar." But every time you make a different choice in spite of those voices, the voices lose strength. Different choices create different behaviors. Different behaviors create different results. Different results create a different identity. That is how you change, not in one dramatic moment, but through repeated evidence, through repeated action, through repeated rehearsal, through repeated responsibility, through repeated courage. Until one day, the person you are trying to become is no longer an image in your mind. It is simply who you are. So from this moment forward, stop chasing money like a desperate person. Create the conditions where money can multiply. Become clear. Become useful. Become disciplined. Become valuable. Become calm. Become trustworthy with resources. Let money support your mission, not define your worth. Let wealth expand your freedom, not inflate your ego. Let abundance move through you without fear, guilt, or grasping. You are allowed to earn while staying aligned. You are allowed to receive while staying grounded. You are allowed to be wealthy and deeply good. The more resourced you are, the greater your impact can become. The more stable you are, the larger you can grow. You do not build from depletion anymore. You build from stability. You do not give from fatigue anymore. You give from fullness. You do not live from survival anymore. You operate from overflow. Wealth is not something you chase. It is something you learn how to hold. It is safe to have more. It is safe to receive more. It is safe to become more. Train your brain. Rewrite the story. Rehearse the future. Take the action. Build the skill. Respect the money. And become the person abundance can finally stay with. I am ready. I am resourced. I am wealthy.